in 3, I guess it was. And but I sought the nomination, someone else contested it, and they beat me, a guy named Nicholas Simons. And I was pretty choked at the time. I didn't get to be the candidate, but I worked for his campaign. He's a wonderful guy. He's a marijuana user. He's very much on board with a lot of what we're trying to do. And he ended up running provincially and becoming our member of the Legislative Assembly provincially. So I feel that was actually good, because I gained a great ally who's now going to be in government and is an elected official, and somebody who understands our cause and is willing to try to do something about it in the government. And I sought the nomination again, and I failed the second time. I came in second. And then finally, on my 3rd attempt in my riding, in the last election, I gained the nomination. And I became the candidate. And everybody knows I'm the marijuana person in my riding, and I think that over the years they'd seen who I am, but I'm not well enough known of a figure nationally that most people don't know who Dana Larsen is. Maybe they do now a little bit, that guy that was, NDP guy that was dropping acid on TV. But in my community I was known, but not as a national figure or whatever, right? And so, before the election came out, I sent an email to Jack Layton saying that I was going to open a medical marijuana dispensary. And that was probably going to be a headline saying NDP candidate opens medical cannabis dispensary, and you should know about this. When you seek the nomination for the NDP or for any party, they have a screening process they put you through. They want to know if you have a criminal record, if you're being sued by anybody. Not that these things necessarily preclude you from being a candidate, but they want to know what they're getting themselves into and who you are and what your history is. And I have never been arrested for anything. I don't have any criminal records. No one's suing me. But I always put at the end of the list that I've broken pretty much all of Canada's marijuana laws, and I'm not ashamed of that. I hope the NDP isn't either. And I always thought I would get a phone call or somebody would ask me about that. Not that it would eliminate me, but that they would want to know what that meant and what that situation was. And no one ever did for any of those times, for those 3 campaigns. So I kind of figured, well, no one really cares, I guess. It's not really a big deal. And then when I was going to open my dispensary, I emailed Jack Layton, told him I was going to open it, and he emailed back within 2 days and said, that sounds fine. Talk to Libby Davies, she's a drug policy critic, good luck, see you later. And so I thought, well, great, that sounds good. Then a couple of weeks later after that, I got a call from the federal secretary. And he said, oh, I got this letter from you about this dispensary. You know, I'm not against what you're trying to do, but as a candidate, you can't be in the gray area of the law doing this kind of stuff. You have to resign. And so by this time, I'd already decided not to open it until after the election, because the election was getting close, and I didn't think I'd be able to handle both. So I wrote back and I said, well, I told him, I said, I'm not going to open it, it's okay, I'll do it after the election, hopefully that's all good. But I kind of realized that not everyone in the party really knew who I was or what I was doing, because I have a seed bank that sells marijuana seeds and a lot of other things that I do. And in my mind, they're both in the gray area of the law, but I would say medical marijuana is a lighter shade of gray than selling marijuana seeds is or whatever, in terms of, you know, they're both illegal, but they're both not really punished or not really pursued in a serious way like that. And so then a couple of days before the election, I had a call from him and the provincial secretary, like, quite heavily pressuring me to resign my nomination, telling me I was going to be a problem for the party, that the links in my webpage to my Cannabis Culture magazine and other things that I'd done were bad and I should resign. And I said no. I said, you get Jack Layton to call me and I'll resign. Jack Layton's my party leader. If he wants me to resign, I'll resign, no problem. I won't make any trouble for the party. I'm a loyal person. But these people, they're just like, they're not really elected. They're kind of hired people. And I said, no, get Jack Layton to call me. And they said, well, okay, you can be the candidate. We're not going to do that, but we're going to keep an eye on you and make sure you don't say the wrong stuff. And I don't even really have to talk about marijuana. I am marijuana in the sense of who I am and what I do. So as an NDP candidate, my goal was more to talk about other issues and try to let people know that I'm not just about marijuana and drug reform, because that's kind of obvious. But 10 days into the campaign, the Liberal Party, in a well-planned hit on me, and I'm not that hard to hit, really, I'm a pretty big target, but they sent a letter to the Globe and Mail. The Globe and Mail called me saying, I hear you have a store that sells cocaine out of your store. And so I had to explain that the Vancouver Seed Bank, where I'd been working and helped create, did sell coca plants, coca seedlings, and coca leaf to people for a while until we had problems getting it through customs. And I explained why I believe the coca plant in its natural form is a beneficial plant, and I was happy to do that kind of stuff. And he said, all right, thanks. And then a few minutes later, I got a call from the federal campaign chair, or the BC campaign chair, yelling at me and saying I had to resign, we're not going to campaign on coca leaf and coca plants and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And it was because I wish I had more marijuana people that had come into my campaign, and I was disappointed by the apathy of so many people that I met who support the ideas that I'm standing for, support what I'm doing, but just are like, oh, politics sucks, it's all corrupt, you're never going to get anywhere, so I'm not going to, I'm not going to help, but good luck or whatever, right? But they don't want to do anything to be there. So the people that are with me are all NDP people first, and Dana Larsen supporters second. And when the BC campaign chair is on the phone on a conference call telling you have to resign, I'm able to say no, I want to have that call with other people before, but they're all like, oh, you can't, whatever, you got to resign. And while we're having this conversation, CBC TV is calling me saying, oh, we're doing a profile of your riding, we wanted to talk to you, just give us a call back when you get a chance. But I didn't call them back because I'm having this big conversation. So I agreed to resign, very sadly and disappointedly, my nomination. I don't know if I think it was the right decision, but it was a difficult thing to make, but I really didn't have a lot of choice, I guess. But then I watched the news that night, and CBC News wasn't just calling me to have a chat about my riding. I filmed many shows for Pot TV back in 1999 and 2000, and I did a lot of, not really outrageous things, but by certain standards, outrageous things on those shows. And the Liberal Party had edited together a 30-second clip of the most outrageous and crazy stuff I had done, and sent it to the news and said, hey, this is what the NDP has as a candidate. Look at this guy, he's dropping acid, says he's got a joint rolled for the road at one point, he's smoking DMT or whatever, right? And I'm happy to stand up for all those things that I did there. I'm not ashamed of really any of that stuff at all. And I'm happy and I'm really proud of a lot of that work that I did. I think normalizing it and bringing that information out there, showing people what it's like to be on acid, pretty boring, really, me walking around with my camera, talking about life and philosophy and stuff. It's interesting perhaps if you like such things, but I'm not, whatever, doing freaky stuff, right? And that's kind of why I did those shows, was to normalize some of that stuff. But anyways, it became a big deal for quite a while. I think I'm running out of time here soon. Oh, okay, that's fine. It became a big deal, and for a few days I was in the big election campaign, and I was the big focus of the election. But to me, people say, oh, the NDP betrayed us, or they suck, or whatever. And I'm like, well, every party's got different factions and different groups in it. And the campaign chair guy belonged to a faction of people that do not understand marijuana, they're afraid of it, they don't want to talk about it during an election campaign. But there are certainly many people in the NDP and in every political party that want to see this change. And I received a lot of emails from people. I didn't receive a single negative comment from any NDP member anywhere. I received nothing but positive comments. Sorry you had to resign, we support your work. My group, End Prohibition, within the NDP had a spike in membership. We have hundreds of members in the party now across Canada who are working with us to bring these resolutions forward and do these things. So although that didn't work out the way I liked, to me, it was breaking a boundary and pushing forward. And I don't know, how or how that could have been better, or what I could have done differently, perhaps. But there's going to be a point where having smoked pot or smoking marijuana now in your life is no longer a political liability. And that has to come where people who use marijuana, or those who use psychedelics, or have done it in the past, are not ashamed of talking about that and saying, yes, I do use marijuana now. And I give the NDP congratulations for letting me get as far as I did. Boris tried to run for the Liberal Party. They were like, we're not letting you run as a candidate. Are you kidding? You're a crazy marijuana activist. You can join the party and do stuff, but you're not going to be a candidate. And I even met with some of the guys on the council afterwards. I said, how come no one ever called me? I said, how come we never had that conversation where we could have had some of this stuff? And they said, it was just marijuana. And we have lots of candidates who have marijuana convictions who smoke pot, and we don't consider that really a big deal. So if we'd known there was videos of you dropping acid, maybe we would have planned for that better. And I should have maybe been more open and really clear about, but I thought they know, I'm the guy, I do all this stuff. I thought we'd have that conversation. So I feel bad that I didn't make them more know about maybe what they were getting into, but it also is good to me that that's their attitude, that marijuana wasn't a big deal, and they thought everything I say is in line with party policy, and I try to, I'm a good NDPer, and I show my loyalty to the party, so it didn't seem like a big deal. And I tell you, I'm still working very hard within the NDP. That is not certainly the end of my work, and there's a convention coming up this August in Halifax, the federal NDP convention. And the last convention they had 2.5 years ago was the first convention I'd ever been to. And we tried to bring a marijuana resolution forward. We came close to getting to the floor, but we couldn't get enough support behind it to get it to the prioritized, so we didn't get it passed. Although we were able to pass